My 29F, half-sister just turned 16, she's 4 months pregnant, and somehow the plan the family landed on isn't help her. It's for me to adopt the baby. Not babysit. Not chip in. Adopt. Raise the child as my own from the first day for the rest of my life. And the thing that still knocks the wind out of me is that nobody actually asked me. They decided. Within about a week of finding out, my stepmom had the whole thing figured out in her head like she was solving a scheduling conflict. And by the time I heard the words out loud, I was the last person in the room who didn't already know I'd been signed up. I want to walk you through how we got here because if you only heard the ending, she refused to take the baby. I'd sound like the coldest person alive. Maybe by the end you'll still think I am. That's kind of why I'm writing this. Let me back up. I have known since I was a teenager that I don't want children. Not yet. Not maybe when I meet the right person. Just know, the same way some people know they don't want to move to a different country or become a doctor. It was never a wound I was nursing or a phase anyone needed to wait out. It's just the truth of who I am, and I made my peace with it a long time ago. My fiancé is 34, and when we first started dating it was one of the earliest real conversations we had because I wasn't going to waste his time or mine. He feels exactly the same. We didn't have to talk each other into anything. We just recognized it in each other, this shared picture of the life we wanted, and we started building it on purpose. And it's a good life. It's small and it's quiet and it's ours. We have 2 cats who own the apartment more than we do. We have slow Sunday mornings with coffee and nowhere to be. We have plans, real ones, the kind you save for and circle on a calendar and rearrange your whole year around. None of it is loud or impressive. Nobody's going to write about it. But every single piece of it exists because we chose it on purpose over the version of life we knew we didn't want. That matters. I need you to really hear me on that because everything that happened next treated it like it was nothing. Like it was a waiting room. Like the quiet life was just something I was doing to pass the time until my real life, the one with a baby in it, was ready to begin. As if I hadn't meant a word of it. As if the whole thing was a placeholder I'd be secretly relieved to hand over the moment someone gave me a reason. Nobody in my family ever asked themselves whether the life I built might be the life I actually wanted. They just assumed it was disposable because to them it always had been. Now my sister. We're half-sisters 13 years apart. And despite the age gap we've always been close in this quiet, sturdy way. When she was little I was the cool older sister who let her stay up too late. As she got older, I became the person she came to when she couldn't go to her mom, my stepmom, about something. I never pushed. I just made it clear the door was open, and over the years she walked through it more and more. So it wasn't a total shock that when the worst news of her young life landed, I was the first person she told. She called me one night, and I could tell before she said a word that something was wrong. Her voice had that thin, careful sound people get when they're holding themselves together with both hands. She was already 4 months along by the time she said it out loud to me. She'd been terrified, carrying it alone, and she picked me to carry it with her first. Not her mother. Not our dad. Me. I'm not going to pretend I had the perfect words. I don't think there are perfect words. But I told her the one thing that was completely true. That I loved her, that I wasn't going anywhere, and that we'd figure out the next step together. And then I did what I said I'd do. I started showing up. I took her to appointments. I sat in those waiting rooms with the terrible chairs and the fish tank and the pamphlets nobody reads, and I held her hand when she was scared, and I drove her home after and made sure she ate something before I left. I learned which days she went quiet and which days she needed to talk the whole car ride. I learned to just let the silence sit when that's what she needed, and to fill it when it wasn't. I did it quietly and I did it gladly, because that's what you do for someone you love who is 16 and frightened. That was the version of support I had to give, and I gave all of it without keeping score, without ever once thinking it made me owe her anything more than I was already giving. Because that's the thing people keep missing. I was showing up. I never disappeared on her. Whatever anyone decides about me by the end of this, they can't say I left her alone in it. I was the one who was there. Here's the part that still makes my stomach turn. While I was doing that, while I was the one in the passenger seat and the waiting room and the late-night phone calls, the rest of the family was somewhere else entirely, having a completely different conversation. About me. Without me. My stepmom had apparently decided, more or less on her own, that the whole mess had a clean and obvious solution. Her 16-year-old shouldn't have to derail her life. And look, I actually agree with the first half of that. A 16-year-old shouldn't have to. But the second half of my stepmom's math was where I disappear as a person and become a resource. Because in her version, the baby doesn't go anywhere sad or complicated. The baby comes to me. I'm stable. I'm partnered. I'm almost married. I'm the grown-up with the apartment and the steady life. So obviously I take it. That's the word that stuck with me. Obviously. Like my entire self, everything I've known about myself since I was a teenager, was just a small obstacle that would naturally give way the moment the family needed it to. And the whole time she was building this plan in her head, I had no idea. I was still just the person driving to the appointments. If it had ended as a bad idea whispered in a kitchen, I could have shut it down gently and we could have all moved on. It did not end there. It ended at my engagement dinner. That night was supposed to be one of the good ones. The rare kind. My fiancé and I had both sides of the family in one room to celebrate the fact that we were building a life together. The exact life I keep telling you we chose on purpose. I remember being genuinely happy walking in. I remember thinking, for once, everyone's here for something joyful. I was maybe halfway through the evening when my stepmom stood up. She had that look people get when they think they're about to do something generous and brave. And in front of everyone, both families, the whole extended crowd, people I only see at weddings and funerals, she laid it all out. She said that since I was so much more stable than my sister, and since my sister still has her whole life ahead of her, the right thing, the family thing, would be for me and my fiancé to adopt the baby. She said it like she was announcing good news. The room went strange. That specific silence where you can hear a chair creak and someone's glass being set down very slowly. I felt every eye slide toward me and my fiancé, and I understood in about half a second that this wasn't a suggestion I was being invited to consider. It was a verdict being read out loud, and I was expected to accept it gracefully right there at my own engagement dinner in front of everyone. And my sister burst into tears and ran from the table. That's the image I can't shake. She didn't look triumphant that a solution had been found. She looked mortified, because her most private, most painful situation had just been turned into a dinner table announcement, and I think in that moment she felt as exposed and as used as I did. Neither of us had chosen this. Both of us were just sitting there while someone else narrated our lives. I looked at my dad. I wanted him to say something, anything to pull us out of it. He wouldn't even look at me. He stared at the table like the answer was written in the wood grain, and that silence hurt worse than anything my stepmom actually said. I froze. I genuinely just froze, sitting there with 100 years of everyone's expectations pressing down on my chest, until my fiancé quietly stood, put his hand on my shoulder, and walked me outside into the cold where I could finally breathe. We stood in the parking lot and I shook. Not from anger yet, that came later, but from the pure shock of watching the happiest night of my year get repurposed, in real time, into a negotiation over whether I'd surrender my future to fix a problem I didn't create. You'd think the worst was over. It was really just the start, because now it never stops. My stepmom's entire side of the family has my number, and they use it. The texts come in waves, never just one, always a cluster, like they've been talking amongst themselves and then taking turns. That I'm selfish. That family sacrifices for family. That a real sister wouldn't even hesitate. That I'm putting cats and coffee and my own comfort over an actual child, my own blood. Some of them are angry and some of them are worse than angry. They're disappointed, gentle, sad, like they're grieving the good person they thought I was. Every single one lands like a small stone. And there are so many of them now that some mornings I genuinely lie there and don't want to reach for my phone at all, because I already know what's waiting. My dad, the same man who couldn't meet my eyes across that table, has suddenly discovered a whole philosophy. He talks now like family means giving up everything, like there's no version of love that includes the word no. Like my entire life is just something on loan that I'm supposed to hand back the second it's asked for. He says it so calmly too, like he's reminding me of something I always knew and just conveniently forgot. And this is from a man who has never once, not a single time in his life, had to give up who he is for anybody. It's easy to preach sacrifice when history has only ever asked it of other people. And the part that guts me most, my sister isn't speaking to me. She thinks I embarrassed her at that dinner on purpose. That somehow the scene her mother caused is my fault, because I sat there stunned instead of smiling and saying yes. The one person I actually showed up for, the one I drove to every appointment, the one who trusted me first now believes I humiliated her. And I don't know how to fix that without also swallowing the very thing I can't swallow. So here's where I actually am. I love my sister. That is not the part in question. I will support her in every way I'm able to. I'll drive to more appointments. I'll sit in more terrible waiting rooms. I'll be an aunt who shows up, who is safe, who never disappears. I would do almost anything for her. Except that. Except becoming a mother overnight to a child I was never asked whether I wanted. To fix a situation I didn't cause, by erasing the exact life I've spent my whole adult life building on purpose. And I'd be lying if I told you I feel strong about it. From the outside she said no and she's holding firm, probably sounds solid, certain, sure of itself. Inside it doesn't feel like that at all. The guilt trips are constant, and they are wearing me down in a slow, quiet way that's hard to explain. Not one big blow, just 1,000 tiny ones until you start to wonder if maybe everyone else is right and you're the one thing standing between a child and a good home. The scariest thing I can admit is that some nights I catch myself doing the math on it, thinking maybe I should just say yes and make it all stop. Just to make the phone go quiet. Just to have my dad look at me the way he used to. Just to have my sister answer a text. That's how heavy it's gotten. I'm not actually afraid of holding my ground in the daylight, when I'm rested and clear and I remember exactly who I am and what I chose. I'm afraid of one bad, exhausted, lonely night where I'm worn all the way down and I don't, and I sign away the rest of my life just to end an argument. So I'll put it to you because clearly my own family can't agree on it. Am I the villain for refusing to give up the life I chose? Or is the real failure everyone deciding my answer for me before anyone thought to ask? And if a family only calls it sacrifice when it's always the same person paying, is that love at all, or just a bill they've quietly addressed to me?